My name is Cy Porter, and I am going to focus on tips that'll help with motion tracking in After Effects for motion capture for animation. For starters, I want to track motion for motion capture of a walk cycle. And the first thing I did with the video footage is to make sure that it starts and ends in close to the same place in the walk cycle. So I started with the right foot forward, went through a few times, and am ending with the right foot forward. By the way, this is with the help of Meli Alexander, a local actress who's done some voiceover work for me. Now that I've trimmed the composition down to the video footage that I'm going to be using, I can do my first track. And what I first want to do is stabilize the footage, keeping in mind that the end result I want is an animated character who's moving as if it is walking, but is not bouncing all over the place the way the movement is here. So what I'm going to do, I'll click on the video and hit the track button, and I want to go ahead and do a track on the hip marker here. And if you're wondering where I got these markers, these are basically those baseball practice balls that you can pick up at a sports goods store. And we tied them. They're about the size of ping pong balls and already have a lot of holes drilled in them. And we just ran some black rope through them and tied them around her joints, and then just used safety pins, in this case to pin to her pant leg there. So I'm going to do a motion track on the hip here and run it through. I hit the stabilize button in the tracker window. Do a stabilized track on the hip marker. The motion tracks that I'm going to be capturing, I want them to create an animated character that is moving as if they are walking, but is kind of held frozen in space and not bouncing all over the place. I'll go ahead and hit the play button and run through. Okay, there's one thing that'll happen during motion tracking. Now, I've stopped the motion tracking because there's a point here where the motion track will jump back to that wrist marker and then jump back again. A quick way of fixing this is that I can just click on that and hit the delete button, and that will delete the keyframe. I don't even need to go back. I can just click on that and delete it because it's just a quick instance where that happens. If it just jumps 1 or 2 frames, I'll go ahead and just delete those keyframes. The motion tracker in After Effects is very good, but it's important to understand how to make it work well. For this particular footage, thank you for watching this tutorial. It's made so that more people can be told about an illustrated film. Episodes of the film are posted at solomation.com. New episodes are posted as they are finished. All episodes will be free, available to watch at solomation.com. I'm choosing luminance instead of RGB because the white balls on the dark clothing have more contrast than the color values. But let's say that the balls were bright red and that the clothing was a blue. I might choose RGB because I am estimating that the computer will have an easier time reading the footage in that case. The motion tracking is going a little bit quicker than I would like it to. I'll increase the outside box a little bit more, because the more that you increase this box, it'll take the computer longer to process the footage because it has to process the surrounding area. And conversely, if the footage is going really slowly, I can tighten up the box here. The inner box is, in a sense, a picture of what it is tracking, and the outer box is the area where it looks. So if you increase this outer box, it's going to have to look in a much larger area, and that does slow the computer down, which sometimes is very helpful. Another thing is, if you're tracking a marker that is moving around a lot, you want to increase the box. If I were marking an arm and the actor swung her arm forward quickly, the marker would all of a sudden be out here. And if the box were small, the marker would leave the area where the tracking software looks for that marker, and the track would have been lost that way. Page up will take you back in the footage. Page down will move you forward. During motion tracking, if you hit the space bar, it will stop the motion tracking. And one thing I do a lot for motion tracking is I go and change the display. So I'll go to Edit, Preferences, and in Display, I'll choose between how many keyframes I want to show. Like right now, I only have 5 keyframes showing, but if I go to all keyframes, right now I don't need to see all the keyframes, so I'm just going to choose to show 5. Okay, I'm done with the stabilizing track. It's at the end of the tracking, and I just hit the page up button, and that'll kind of run me back through the track. I can just kind of make sure that it doesn't jump around. Now, Motion Tracker creates a keyframe on every point. If you're working with 24 images per second, it'll make 24 keyframes for each second. Deleting 1 or 2 keyframes here and there does not affect the quality of the track. But if it gets off track for many keyframes, then I'd go ahead and retrack that part. We're done with the track. Go ahead and hit apply. You have a choice of both X and Y coordinates, or just X or just Y. I'll choose both X and Y. So as you can see, the actor is moving, but she's not moving all over the place. And so the animation that we will create, the arms and legs and everything, will be moving accurately, but we'll have better control over how that animated character moves within the animation. For some motion captures, the actor will be further and closer to the camera, at times in effect becoming smaller and larger on the footage. And we want to counteract that a little bit. And what I'll do is I'll create a new solid, the same dimensions as the project. Shift down arrow. The shift key will make it move faster. And I'm going to go ahead and bring that down to where her foot is at the beginning of the footage. I'm going to click on the solid, hit Control D to duplicate that solid. Shift up arrow on the duplicate solid will take it to the top. I can get an idea of what her scale is like. And I'm going to go ahead and click on the footage, hit the S key to open scale, and at the beginning of the footage I'm going to go ahead and do the stopwatch. I'm going to take it through the footage, and you can see that she gets smaller on the footage because she's further away from the camera by the time she's at the end of the footage. When I shot this, we had guides to keep her more or less equal length from the camera. What I'm going to do here is at the end of the footage, I'm just going to scale her up so that she's roughly the same size as she was at the beginning of the footage. So I've created 2 keyframes, one at the beginning, one at the end. And I'm just going to kind of go back. It's more or less, again, this stuff will never be an exact science, motion capture for 2D animation, but that's pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and delete those two solids. I don't need them anymore. And then what I can do is render out this stabilized, scale-corrected footage and use that to start a majority of the motion capture.